All right, in the previous section we built out the UI for the admin, so admin you can see the admin add category screen, admin add wallpaper screen, right? And you can also view all the wallpaper that has been added by the admin, which is you or anybody, right? So now we are going to start adding our category. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to go to the category screen. Okay, I'm going to close this. This is add wallpaper, so let's go to the add category screen, right? And right here, I'm going to, since we have our provider, which is more like the admin provider, right? I'm going to create an abstract class. So that abstract class is more like, it's going to, guide us on the two things that we need, right? We need three things in this screen. First, we need to view add category, right? Which is save category, save wallpaper, and also get admin wallpapers, right? So I have all of them here. We have our abstract class. I'm making it private so that it can only be accessible by this guy. Okay, we have our save wallpaper, add wallpaper, category, and get wallpaper. So here I'm going to implement that. Let's implement the admin and make sure you import the necessary implementations. Okay, so the first thing I want to do now, if you notice, I need to create a getter and a setter for our category name, right? And also I'm going to create a getter and a setter for category image, right? Also, yeah, that's pretty much the two things that we need here, name and category image, right? So I have this already. So we have our so this update state is more like what I usually create, because sometimes you might encounter some error, right? I normally use a widget binding, right? Initialize to make sure that the build is completed before calling notify listener. So I usually use this when I'm working with providers. Okay, so we have our getter, which is private category names, which we are going to be using to get this guy. Okay, and we also have the one for category image. When it's null, we are going to return this empty state, but when it's not null, then we are going to return the actual state. So now let's go back to our admin add category screen. Okay, we are going to go here, and right here I'm going to wrap this guy with the admin provider, right? Okay, I'm going to wrap it with a consumer, and so we have our state, which is the admin state, and the child, which is not needed, right? So we have add categories, and so normally when you're adding a category, we also need to have a state, right? More like a view state, because that is going to tell us that, okay, something is loading, right? Then show a specific kind of stuff, and also a message if it's if there's an error. So I will go back to our provider here, and I'm going to create a view state, which is the same way we did for our login authentication, right? So right here now I'm going to add the setter or the getter, right? So on change, once this guy changes, we are going to call the state.category name, okay, and then set it to the value. Okay, right, so that is done. Now we are going to move on to the next side, okay, which is the adding of image. Okay, so right in this image, the category image, what we are going to be doing here now, and also why it's changing, if you come down to our preview screen, we are no longer going to show category image. Rather, what we are going to show is state.category name. Okay, make sure you remove this const. So watch what happens now. If I click here and start typing, you will notice that it will automatically, let me remove the keyboard. Okay, so if I start typing now, you will notice how, okay, something is wrong. Okay, so you will notice, oh, let me do a hot restart. I think I'm getting error whenever I try to type. Okay, let's go back here. If we click and I try to type, you can see, let's say category image is fashion, right? You can see how it's taking shape here. Cool, that's pretty much what I wanted to achieve, and it has been done. All right, so the next bit is for our category image. Okay, so whenever users clicks on this guy, right, whenever they click on this, we need to pick image, right? And so because of that, we already have our, remember we added image picker somewhere in our dependency, right? And which is going to be helping us to pick image. If you look very well, you're going to see our image picker, right, when we started adding dependencies. So I'm going to go to our shared directory, and under utils, I'm going to create a new file called pick image.dat, right? So inside here, I'm just going to create, it's going to be a future of null string, because users might open up the image picker and then they will select any image, right? I'm going to call this get image path, right, from source. Okay, and this is going to be asynchronous. We have our final results, okay, and then I'm going to await this and just call our image picker, right, dot pick image, okay, and then the source is going to be image source dot, you can use camera or gallery, but in this case we are going to stick with gallery. So let's just set a maximum width of this, okay, and also we are going to set image quality to 70, right? And so here I'm going to check, I'm just going to return if it's null or not, right? Just return the results dot path, okay. So this should be null label, right? So now we have that one in place. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to go back to our app, right? And I'm going to come here, make this async as well. So I'm going to come here and add final image, right, equal to, we're going to await it and call the image source, okay? And make sure you import it, right? Once you do that, we can now set it to the setter that we created, right? If you look at our provider here, is it is, yeah, we have the setter for image, okay? So whether it's null or not, we are just going to set it. State.category image equal to image. Cool. So that's pretty much it. And we are also going to check here if the image is null, right? We are going to, I think, inside our border. So if the image is null, we are going to return null. If the image or category image is null, we're going to return null. If it's not null, that means user selected something, then we can just return the image. So we are also going to do the same thing inside our, image preview, right? So this is how it's going to look. So save it up. So now let's try to pick an image. If I click here, let's save this, okay. I click, you will see that it's loading up the image picker. Now we can select its category, right? You can see how it's prefilled, okay? I use bossfit.cover, so it will just cover everything. I can see the fashion is also showing here. We can also select other images and it's going to replace it, okay? So that's pretty much it for the category, okay? Now we are going to see how we can add or save that category into the database, okay? And then from there, we are going to now start adding a new wallpaper. So what I'm going to do here now is to go to our save category screen, which is our provider, right? We have our save category, okay? Let's remove this and I'm going to make this async, okay? And so to add an image, first we need to set view state, right? View state.busy so that it will be showing the busy overlay. Then you can just call notify listener, right? I'm going to wrap this with a try and catch, okay? So on Firebase exception, we need to show some errors. I'm going to grab this from the current login that we did before. So once there's a Firebase exception, it's going to throw error, yes, okay? Then what we are going to do here now is more like, first thing, I need to upload the category image, okay, right? So for that, I created an upload document to server logic, okay? So I use it as more like my util class. It's something I use when I'm building applications, okay? So I cannot start, doing it from scratch now. It's going to take a long time, okay? So what I'm going to do here now is I'll grab it, okay? And since this code is going to be available on GitHub, you guys are going to see it. I normally use it when I want to upload file or documents to Cloud Firestore. So in my utils file, I'm going to have a new file called uploadfile.dat, okay? So I have this guy in place, okay? So this is what happens. First, I created a result, like more like a model that we can return back to the user, okay? Then I have an upload tags. This is the name of the method that takes the path, right? Then we have a reference, okay? And the child name, image, and everything we put in the file. This is just more like uploading to Cloud Firestore, and from there we are now going to get the download URL. It's that download URL now that we are going to return back to the app UI, right? And then we can now save it to Cloud Firestore. If there's an error, it shows here, right? It returns viewState.error, okay? And just like that. So that's pretty much what I normally use when I'm saving files, okay? So you can check it out. It's going to help you a lot, okay? Then the next thing we are going to do now is to save, since we are uploading image, I'm going to have this URL string, which is after it has been uploaded, and import the method that we just created now, and then we call the category image. So this category image is coming from here, right? Remember, these are things we need to validate before we send it, okay? So you can, if you notice here, we are not validating it, we are just calling it directly, okay? I'm going to show you back how we are going to validate it in the UI, all right? So I'm going to check something here. If the URI is string, right, dot the state, okay, because this is returning the upload doc result model. So I'll check if the state is viewState.error, okay, we need to return something back to the user, which is more like the error message, and then the execution is going to stop there, okay? We are going to return the file URL, because if you look here, we are returning the file URL as an error message if there is an error, okay? And moving on, we can now check, so success, so we upload was success, right? So now we can now save it back to Firebase, okay? So here we're going to create a payload. So this payload is going to have our model where we can now pass the category name, the category image, and the date that the category was created, okay? But we have not created that model yet, okay? But before that, we need to save it to Firebase, right? So I need to create a Firebase instance, okay? So we have our Firebase instance for adding to the category, right? We need to add a category, okay? Category image, all right? The category, okay? We created a payload. So here now, I'm going to have something called the category payload, okay? So we have the category name, okay? Then here we're going to pass the category name, right? We're also going to have a category image, okay? We're also going to have the category image is no longer going to be the category image. It's going to be the URI string because it was success.file image, okay? Then we are going to have the date that it was created, okay? Date created is going to be integer, so we're going to be using datetime.milliseconds since mph. That's what I normally use when I'm saving dates to Firebase, right? I use milliseconds since mph. So with this now, we can now call our category ref, right, dot add then the payload, right? But this is not a good way. I try as much as possible to avoid maps like this. What I normally do is to create a model for it, more like a category model, okay? So what I'm going to do, I normally use a app.quicktype.io, okay? So inside here, I'm going to create a new model. So this is going to be the category name, right? We'll just create the model structure of how we want it to be. And this is going to be an integer, right? So I usually create it like this, and I'm going to change the name to category model, right? So we already have this in place, so I can just copy it, go back to our code, and right under our admin, I'm going to create something called model. Okay, inside here, I'm going to create a category model. All right. And with this category model, you can go on and remove all these ones. We only need this, okay? So now going back now to our app one step, I'm going to remove this, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I have my payload and category model. So now we are going to be using the category model to construct the data, all right? So that there won't be any mistake. So we have our category name, we have our image, which is going to be URI.this, okay? Then we also have our date time when it was created, and save it there. So here our payload is now going to be payload, right, dot to JSON, okay, because this already has a JSON object here. So we have that, so I can now delete this. Once it has been created, I will go ahead and set the category name, right, to an empty string. So I need to reset all those guys, okay? Also set the category image to null, And now I can say view state equal to view state dot success, right? And also I'm going to call our update state. So this is pretty much it this is what we just need for saving of categories. Okay, so now we can go back now to our add category screen, where I'm going to start adding our categories, right? So we have the category preview, we have the category image, which we have already done. So now we have our button. Okay, so this button is going to handle the saving and everything that is needed. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to validate. Let's use our async, right? So I'm going to validate if the state.category name is empty, right? We need to remember we already have our show message widget that we created in the previous videos. So we have please select add category name, let's say add a category name, right? Then we can return. Then if let's say the user already has added category, we need to validate for category image. So if is equal to null, so we can just say please add a category image. All right, cool. Then we can return. Then if everything is good, we can now call await state.save category, right? You can see we did not pass any parameters because everything has been handled here already, and we have already validated the strings. Okay, so inside here now we can now check if the state view state is equal to view state dot error. Okay, once there's an error in any way, we are going to now show a message to the users back that hey, there's an error while we were trying to save your data. Okay, then if the view state is not error, okay, everything is success, we are now going to set the category was successfully saved and available for use. So now we can set its error to false. So this is no longer an error. Okay, so that's pretty much it for adding a category. So now let's test our logic. If you notice now in our Firebase, you can see, let's go to our Firestore database. You can see now it's empty, nothing is inside. So now I'll try to add a new category by selecting category name. I'm going to say plant. Okay, from the plant you can see we have already selected our image, right? Let's just use another image here. Then you click on continue. Okay, I think this stuff is really close to the bottom, so I'm going to add like 40, let's say 50 dot height. All right, so here now we can now click, you can see uploading document to server. Oops, something is wrong. We did not use our busy overlay, right? You can see category was successfully saved and available for use, but it did not show that loader, right? You can see after it was added, it cleared out the items. So what I need to do here is to add a busy overlay right around this, because we already have that, so I did not create it. So you can just say show main state dot view state is equal to view state dot busy, right? So if you go back now to our Firebase, refresh this, you're going to notice that that initial category has been added and there is no error. So you can see category, we have the category and it have the image. So we can view this image and it's going to show us the accurate download link, right? Cool. So everything works fine. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another image, and this one is going to be, let's say we have our image here. First of all, save this. We have the car. Okay, I'm going to select vehicle. Okay, and click continue. You can see now the busy overlay is showing, and you can see uploading document to server. Once everything is done, task completed, you can see success, category was saved, and everything is okay. Cool. So now we have our category in place, and if you refresh again, you're going to see the second one. Look at it here. The second one is already there. Cool. So the next thing now we are going to do now, in the next section, we are going to look at adding a new wallpaper, and we are going to see how to add wallpaper and also select categories when we are adding wallpapers. Thank you guys. See you all in the next section.